Continuing on, we're adding to our big board on Locked On 49ers, two more prospects, Jackson Powers-Johnson, the center out of Oregon, and TJ Tampa, long cornerback out of Iowa State. Are they future 49ers? And what does the DeVonta Smith contract do for Brandon Aiyuk in the 49ers negotiations? All that and more coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers, Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Crocky209. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We appreciate everybody who is subscribed on YouTube. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when we go live. And, of course, you can find us everywhere you listen to your podcast. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. That's a new promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first ticket purchase with Game Time. All right, Croc, let's get into some more prospects here. And a name that I have seen in some mock drafts that's kind of starting to trickle down towards the 49ers at pick 31. We've talked a lot about tackles. I want to go back to the interior of the offensive line with this one, a prospect that after the Senior Bowl was routinely getting mocked in the middle of the first round. These simulators doing some of these mock drafts, and all of a sudden Jackson Powers-Johnson out of Oregon is sitting there. And the 49ers potentially could have that decision to make where the best player available is not a tackle, but a center in the middle of their offensive line, potentially in Jackson Powers-Johnson out of Oregon, and guard center versatility. When you throw on the JPJ tape, what did you see, Eric Crocker?
So first, I noticed something that I think it gets lost in the shuffle with everything, right? We want to know how someone anchors, how will they move in space. But when the center, it's how well does he snap the ball? And it's hard to pay attention to the snap while paying attention to everything else. But every time I made it a point to look at the snap, which I did on plenty of snaps, I'd say probably 100 snaps. Not one time did I ever see a snap not just perfect. Like I never saw a guy have to, let me reach with one hand to the right, or let me reach with one hand to the left because it's a bad snap to the left, or is it low snap and they have to catch it while still trying to keep their eyes upfield. Every single snap that I focused on, I'm saying over 100 snaps that I paid solely potential to just a snap, it was on target. So I don't know how much the NFL factors that into a center because they are focused on everything else. But I just thought that was something where I'm like, every single snap is just on the money. I don't even think Bo Nix had to look the ball in. It's just he just knew exactly where it was going to be every time. Just said, clap his hand, ball there. He's looking upfield already trying to see because he knows exactly where the ball is going. So I don't know if that's a high compliment of a center or if that's just something that nobody pays attention to. But I coach at the high school football level. And at the high school football level, and again, we're talking about high school, now guys getting ready for the pros, but I see so many bad snaps. So maybe I just have a different appreciation for it.
It's important, man. You're handling the ball. You are the first person that handles the ball on every play. And now Kyle Shanahan's offense isn't going to have as many shotgun snaps as some of these college offenses are. But, the center quarterback exchange is important. And you look at things like hand size, just like you look with quarterbacks. And, he's got big hands, just below 10 inches, 9 7/8, I think he was the combine hand size. But speaking of size, Croc, this is the first thing that jumps out to me with Jackson Powers-Johnson is his size. He's a large center. A lot of these centers we look at are just barely 300 pounds. They're athletic and they're centers because they're undersized. Jackson Powers-Johnson's a big, powerful dude, but he moves like a smaller guy too. I see a center who is 100% scheme flexible. Like you're not worried about him playing wide zone. You're not worried about him in a gap scheme. Even though he's really big, he's not like a plodding, just mauling type of an interior offensive lineman, even though he can maul you as well.
I like that you added in that he can maul you because it didn't feel like that was a big part of his game. I talked about how people are going to focus on the anchor. I have to watch more centers. But, centers are responsible. You have to snap, get your head up right now, and then focus on somebody that's, coming off the ball right at you. And I think naturally, maybe there is kind of that initial pushback. So, you watch a guard, you watch a tackle, in the run game or pass game, and you want those guys to have a really good anchor, strong anchor, and on contact, like they're not moving. And we've watched some offensive linemen that definitely, they were walls and they were hard to push back. I felt like the anchor part of it, and I don't know how much I should value this with a center, he would get pushed back a little bit. But aside from that, I thought he did do some things that were nasty in the run game. I saw him throw guys to the ground. I thought he moved well when, with how he's aligned, having to reach block, having to get to a guy out in space. I thought he did all those things extremely well. And then the finish, which to me is very important for a lot of these offensive linemen, driving guys to the ground, kicking guys out the club. For a center to be able to do those things, whether it's in run protection, pass protection, or move and do a really terrific job with stunts. I think you see a lot of stunts on that interior there. One guy diving this way, then another guy coming. He did a great job of looking comfortable, passing things off. I could see why he's graded out as a first-round center.
One of the things I love about Jackson Powers-Johnson potentially as a 49ers fit is that he's not a center-only guy. And, we know that Kyle Shanahan's offense puts a lot on the center to make the calls and all that stuff. So, he could compete early and maybe he starts week 1 as a center. I don't know. But Kyle Shanahan has had only veteran centers on his as starting centers since he's been the 49ers head coach. So Jackson Powers-Johnson has that ability to step in right away and be a guard for a year while he figures things out before they transition him into the center position. And he's played a full season at guard in college. In fact, as a freshman at Oregon, and he, by the way, he's young. He's an early entry, unanimous All-American as a center last year, by the way. First team All Pac-12, Remington Award as the top center in FBS. So, I mean, we're talking about a big-time player and a player that offensive line coaches are going to look at the tape and love it, right? He did have an ankle injury, but he wasn't able to work out. We don't have the workout numbers for him, but he dominated the first 2 days of the Senior Bowl, even having the injury. So having an injury and showing up to still compete at the Senior Bowl and then dominating and being the best player for 2 days and then, saying, all right, peace, I'm out of here and I'm not going to hurt myself. I mean, I thought that was phenomenal. I don't know if he'll get to the 49ers at 31, but there's been some talk just because Dane Brugler recently was mentioning how many teams really need a center, how many teams view center as a position that they would draft in the first round anyway. And let's say a team has him as the second center after Graham Barton or something like that. Then, potentially that's why he might fall out of the first round or fall towards the 49ers pick at the end of round 1, despite how good he is. So full season sophomore year at right guard, full season at center his junior year where he was the unanimous All-American, played a little defensive tackle in the bowl game as a true freshman and played a little left guard and right guard. He only played 3 games as a true freshman before jumping in to the right guard spot full time there as a sophomore. So really interesting player. And the tape is good. Seeing him compete at the Senior Bowl was good. He's got the athleticism, the size, the toughness to be, a high level player. And the question might become, Croc, would you rather have a tier lower tackle or a Pro Bowl caliber center if you're the 49ers, and it's like the conversation we were having about Cooper DeJean. Maybe he is a safety. Well, what if he's the best safety in the draft? Would you rather have a Pro Bowl safety, big nickel type of player, or would you rather have an outside corner who gets paid more, but he's a tier below that?
I think you have to acquire as many good players, potentially starters, as possible if you're the 49ers. So even if, tackle, maybe it's a bigger priority, but man, this is tackle 10 versus, guard/center 1. I think you go with the guy that's higher at his position and potentially is a long-term, really good player for you. That's how I would have to prioritize, especially for this 49er team. Like, how are they built? And the 49ers are built to where they don't, regardless of how anybody looks at this team or the offensive line, they have the entire starting offensive line coming back. And some people view that as a negative. Some people view it as positive. But for me, I think it's if you can just replace one of those guys, no matter where it is, if it's a center, right guard, or tackle, You replace one of those guys, you got better. And that's the big thing. Kyle Shanahan, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. It doesn't matter which one of those guys I replace, but if I replace a center, I got better on my offensive line. And then hopefully the next draft, or maybe even later in this draft, we can address another position to where now we got one starter, right? But we got our starting center. Now, even if we draft a guy second round, Rosengarten or something, right? Hey, man, it's not the pressure to come in and have to start right away because we got our one starter that now we got better. And if eventually, hey, man, Rosengarten, you're better than McKivitz. Okay, let's go. Now you got two starters. Great. But finding that guy that you identify as a day one starter to improve your offensive line, I think that's very important. So for this team, now if you're talking about 2017, then it's different, right? Like now you can kind of swing for the fences, do different things, and hopefully you get multiple starters. But right now, where the 49ers are, you need one new starter to feel better about where you are this year as opposed to this time a year ago.
Yeah, and I'm BPA too. So if you have to drop tier to go from center to tackle, give me the center. Give me the guy that you think is an all-pro, whatever that position might be. And center is pretty important. Even and obviously he's a guy who can play guard as a rookie too. So like the versatility.
And if he starts at guard, learns the offense, understands how they want him to, call protections and things like that. Starts at guard, and then after this year, it's like, okay, I gave you starting guard ability. You like what you saw, but man, let's move him to center, and we put more on our center, and we could plug someone else at right guard. I'm good with that.
Next, let's talk TJ. Actually, I want to get one more question from you. I want to rank the top 3 centers in this class because we've watched Barton, we've watched Zach Frazier, we've watched Jackson Powers-Johnson now. TJ Tampa, cornerback out of Iowa State. Is he a future 49er? I've seen him in the first and second round of mock drafts to the 49ers. Next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by BetterHelp Online Therapy. And what's the first thing you do every day? If you had an extra hour, I'm going to give you an extra hour between wake up, you're ready to go to work, but guess what? Here's a free hour. What would you do? Would you go work out? Croc, I'm sure, would head to the gym. Would you just get more sleep? Would you go back to bed? Would you go spend time with a certain person, right? Whatever that is, whatever you need more time for in your life, identify that. And that's the best way to squeeze that special thing into your schedule. And so many of us wish we had more time in our lives and spend time wishing we had more time. Therapy can help you identify what that is. Find what matters to you so you can do more of it. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched to a licensed therapist. And if you don't hit it off, you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Learn to make time for what makes you happy with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. How would you personally rank? And I know we watched Graham Barton at tackle, and he's sort of a center projection. But of the guys who are sort of the consensus top 3 centers in this draft class, Jackson Powers-Johnson, Graham Barton, and Zach Frazier out of West Virginia, we've watched all 3 of them, Croc. How would you rank those guys? Do you feel really strong about one or the other, or not one of the 3?
I may have Barton maybe at the top, just because I see him at tackle. I see exactly how he fits at guard. And just based off of his fit, movement skills, and even a little bit slimmer than Jackson Powers, he comes off as a center as well. We're like day one center, right? And I think we both identified like, is he a tackle? Maybe not. But you like the nastiness, you like the mean streak, and he does look like someone that can play in the interior. So I might have him a little higher just because with, Jackson Powers, it's like you're a center and you can play guard. But I don't know. I think there's just more. Like, why did the 49ers value Daniel Brunskill so much? It's like, bro, I could play any position on this offensive line and start and play well. Like when Joe Staley was hurt and Daniel Brunskill had to play tackle, like he was good at tackle. I'm like, well, okay, this offseason, Joe Staley's going to retire. It's fine, guys. We got Daniel Brunskill to play tackle. And it seems crazy, but that was my thoughts.
And if you think they're just as good inside and you think Graham Barton is a great fit for your offense, and then if things go haywire, he could jump out and play tackle for you early in his career. That's a little added value, might be the tiebreaker there. So I like those guys a lot. They're very close to me. And I think there's a very real chance that the best player on the board when the 49ers are sitting there at 31 is one of those interior offensive linemen. So we have to answer that question pre-draft. Would they rather go to the next tier of tackle, the next tier of defensive lineman, corner, whatever it is, wide receiver, whatever they're looking at in the first round, or this guy that's in a higher tier on the interior of their offensive line? TJ Tampa, he is a cornerback out of, by the way, 6'3" and 3/8, 328 pounds. That's the size for, I don't know if we even mentioned his full height and weight there for Jackson Powers Johnson.
6'3" what?
6'3" and 3/8, 326 pounds at his pro day. So he dropped 2 pounds from the combine.
That's a big corner.
No, I'm talking. Sorry, I went back to Jackson Powers Johnson because I wanted to say 326 pounds. That would be a big corner. 326 pounds. That corner.
I didn't hear that part. I just heard 6'3", 3/8. I'm like, hey, that's a tall corner.
TJ Tampa is a taller corner. I'm pulling up what his information is right now. You are the cornerback expert, Croc. What did you see from TJ Tampa?
I should bring up some of my notes, but I do know right away. And then hold on, let me get this. Okay, TJ Tampa. Boundary corner at Iowa State. So, you got your bound, depending on the scheme, you can have a boundary corner or a field corner. All right. Typically, boundary corners is that guy that's going to be a little bit more aggressive at the line of scrimmage or just more aggressive, period. You're a little bit maybe more comfortable with him in run support. And if you looked at how Iowa State utilized him, they definitely felt comfortable with him in the run support. Willing tackler, not afraid to get in the mix versus the run. And those two things came off just watching blockers come at him and him kind of knife in there and still try to make tackles. I was very impressed with that part of his game. Where I was not impressed, and I kept trying to watch different games to see if I can get a better read on this. Like maybe it's the game plan that he's playing like this. Maybe it's the game plan. In each game I put on, it might not be the game plan. It might just be how they play. And they played this very soft coverage, it felt like, especially for a guy, again, he's a boundary corner. You're thinking, okay, even if they're playing off and with eyes to the field, to the boundary, more aggressive at the line of scrimmage. And at the NFL level, you just play so much more man. Even these teams that are zone heavy, still, dang near half the time, they're playing man coverage. So, you might play your zone early, but at the end of the day, NFL, you got to be able to play man press. You got to be able to play man. And I didn't see a whole lot of that from Iowa State.
Yeah.
Just a little more off. And the way I watched him with playing off, I didn't think he challenged himself enough in space. There were times, and again, I'm trying to get a beat on his movement skills, transitioning in and out of breaks. And maybe this is a guy, I almost broke my rule and went and watched his highlights just so I could see, like, okay, well, what's the high end of what he does? What does that look like? I didn't do it, but I wanted to. But I saw a guy that played very soft. He would get out and be ready to run even when there was still, 7 yards of cushion between him and the receiver. I thought he was a little wasn't playing with much anticipation. When we talk about anticipation with quarterbacks all the time, like, oh man, how many anticipatory throws is he making? But as a defensive back, how is he reading down the receiver? Does he see the receiver starting to throttle down? So, okay, he's starting to throttle down. Okay, I need to throttle down and break on this comeback. And I always end up kind of going to the opposite side of the field. I watched the corner. And the corner had the receiver outside the numbers, push vertical, and he ran like a post stop on him. And I watched the corner kind of get out way too soon, open up, had the speed turn, dude ran, just didn't challenge the receiver at all. But then the next 2 reps, I watched him kind of squat on route. So I just saw like this adjustment, right? Like the adjustment to what was going on. So from there, he's like, all right, you're going to try to attack me like that. I'm going to now slow down. I'm not going to get out as quick, and I'm going to squat on these routes. He made a terrific play on the ball, broke a ball up. Another time, if they would have threw it at him, he would have broken it up again. That's not TJ Tampa. That's the other side. I didn't see those adjustments from TJ Tampa. Now, there was one play I watched, can't remember the game, might have been Oklahoma, where I thought he did a good job of his speed turn. He did a speed turn and got back on that upfield shoulder of the receiver and then broke up the ball at the catch point. I thought that was terrific, and it showed like a certain level of athleticism. But I don't know if he's like the smoothest, most transitioning cornerback, and I think he plays a little long for me. I like something a little bit more specific. I like twitchier feet, more sudden movements, and if you can get that out of a bigger guy, like that's a plus for me. I didn't quite see that from him, but again, it's hard to truly know because I didn't get to see him truly challenge himself a whole lot with how they play defense.
6'1", by the way, 6'1", 194 at his pro day. Is the comp Eric Crocker for TJ Tampa?
When you said 6'1",
you don't like guys that get comp to you. That's what's funny.
Yeah, when you said 6'1", 194, I said, that sounds like Eric Crocker.
Territory right there. Bigger corner. Yeah, and so it was tough for me watching him and trying to think about what the transition is going to be in the NFL. And he was like, left corner, zone heavy all the time. And so it's like, okay, that's fine. But what's that going to look like when he's got to play more man? His testing numbers were really interesting, Croc. And he had really good agility for especially a tall guy. 4.07 short shuttle and a 6.97. So, sub 7 second 3 cone is really good for a taller player. 6'1", 194. Longer arms, 32 and an eighth inches. But his 40 time, Croc, 4.58. You're not.
Oh, he's Eric Crocker to a T.
Dude, yeah, it's insane, right? And you're not going in the first round if you ran a 4.58 at corner. And I keep seeing him in the first round of mock drafts, and I'm thinking, no chance. It'd be tough to go second round, I think, with TJ Tampa. If you're looking at a really zone only outside corner, I think people are I like him, but I think where he's going in these mock drafts is way too high from what I'm seeing and what you need from an outside cornerback in the NFL. 4.58 is just not going to get you drafted in the first, in the top 50 for sure. And he might be there at pick 94 versus what we're talking about. Some people putting him at pick 31 to the 49ers.
Now here's the thing, right? You can be 6'1", 194, be a 4.58, and have an excellent football career. But, and I'll use myself, there has to be other things that ends up making you be like this special guy. I wasn't very smart on the field, and it could have been because of just how I got to the league. I went to, junior college where my corner coach was like, hey, man, like this stuff is working for you. You're a good athlete. Use your athleticism. Great. Then I went to D2.
Close to the receiver.
Yeah. Then I went to a D2 where, they want me to play a specific way. I wasn't ready for it. So I had kind of up and down junior year. Senior year, I didn't really learn a whole lot from a coverage standpoint. It was like, hey, we're going to play cover 3. We're going to play man press, but we're not really teaching you a lot. But we'll teach you how to run these couple coverages, and that's it. Now, it worked for me. I was all conference, all that. But then by the time I got to the league, for someone who wasn't fast, again, 4.55, 4.56 type guy, hand time, not even laser combine. All right. I have to have something that I'm able to overcome that speed. And if you look at a guy like Richard Sherman, 6'3", 4.57 guy or whatever he was, hey, that's fine because I'm so smart. I have such a beat on the route concepts, right? Like that's what made him so good. Hey, I'm long. I am athletic. I was long. I was athletic. But I can't run really fast, but that's fine because I can overcome not being fast physically with being fast mentally to make me play faster. And Richard Sherman went to that Seattle 3 scheme that worked to his benefit, right? Like they didn't send him to New York and be like, all right, hey, we're going to send you to New York and you're just going to be on the island man coverage versus everybody like Darrelle Revis. And that was a part of the big arguments between Revis and Sherman, right? But what Sherman was able to do, it fit him. And then mentally, he was so sharp, so he played fast. So with TJ Tampa, this is not to say that he can't be good. Richard Sherman was drafted in the fifth round for a reason. With TJ Tampa and maybe that lack of that long speed that they ideally want to see from a guy who's going to play outside. If he could play nickel, that's different. But I don't know if he's a nickel guy. He sounds like he has some of the agilities to do it. But an outside guy, if he's smart like Sherman and he goes to a system that fits that, it could work. 49ers and the rest of the NFL as well, they're going towards a little bit more quarters. And you're seeing a lot of guys play off, but quarters is kind of like this match. Man, it's almost like a soft man. And if you can't really turn around or mirror the guy's abilities, it gets a little tough. And if you even look at Travarius Ward, he's best at the line of scrimmage. He's not great playing off and in the quarters where he has to turn and run. If you ever see him get beat, it's usually that way and not just, oh, he's pressed up man coverage and gets beat. So TJ Tampa, 49ers may not be a fit quite for him unless he just gets it so much with concepts to get him to play faster than his actual 40 time.
And the 49ers have leaned into, aside from the Diamador Lenore pick actually at corner, have leaned into trying to find an athlete and coach him up. That's kind of been their MO with corners. So I don't know if there's a fit there unless he does fall, say, to the 5th round area with TJ Tampa, where Richard Sherman went, where Diamador Lenore went in the draft. I'm out on TJ Tampa early, but he's a prospect I like too. I was just kind of surprised at how early they're putting him in mock drafts right now. Final thoughts on Tampa. Let's talk DeVonta Smith and how it changes the Brandon Aiyuk contract negotiation next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. And prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. And that's my favorite way to use Game Time. Getting ready for, I'm across the bridge in 10 minutes, go see a San Francisco Giants ball game. And I love that last minute, I can go catch a game, get on Game Time, even after the game starts. Even up to an hour after the start of your event, you can find tickets on Game Time and get killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guarantee as well at Game Time. Takes all the guesswork out of buying those Major League Baseball tickets. You can go to a football game, you're going to a basketball game, how about a comedy show, a concert, a theater event near you? You can find all of those tickets at Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code. It's a new code, by the way. LOCKEDONNFL is the new code at Game Time for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. What's your round grade on TJ Tampa?
Watching the film, and there wasn't something that I loved that jumped out to me. And even, let's say Damon Arnett, right? Like Damon Arnett ended up being a first round pick. A lot of people thought that was a reach, but I thought he had good film. Like I watched Damon Arnett's film coming out of Ohio State. I liked his film. Film says he's really good. Testing says you're not a first round pick. And when I watched TJ Tampa, his testing says he's not a first round pick. And his film also, to me, doesn't scream first-round pick. Now, I have seen some numbers out there that says he was good in certain areas and man coverage and whatnot. I just didn't see a whole lot of it on any of the games that I watched. So it's hard for me to truly tell. Or maybe I just don't know what their man coverage looks like as opposed to when I watch, SEC. SEC is jumps out like a lot of man coverage all over the place. Nothing about him screamed day one. And now learning his testing numbers, just to go with the things that maybe worried me a little bit, I would say late day 2 type guy for me with the 49ers.
Yeah, I would say probably 3rd round range feels more right. And I wouldn't even be shocked if, put it this way, if you said over under pick 65, which is the first pick in the 3rd round, I would say over, like the higher number, right?
But I hear a lot of people like Peter Peacock tweeted me and asked, "Oh, what do you think about TJ Tampa?" So I think there are a lot of people that like TJ Tampa. I've seen that before watching him. Like over the last 2 months, I've seen a lot of people say, "Oh, TJ Tampa, TJ." I've seen his name a lot.
Yeah, that's why he's been on our list to go look at. And I was thinking I was going to see something a little bit more dynamic, although the tape is good. And most of the grades are out there based on the tape, and it was late in the pro day in the process because he didn't run at the combine where he put that 40 time down there. So I think that might start to disqualify him from some teams. They're trying to look at him as an early player. So I think people like the tape more and really haven't adjusted things as far as mock drafts go, seeing the workouts, because teams are looking for that longer cornerback, and they liked his tape as that versus some of the other shorter corners.
Even with the tape, and okay, this is why I would ask everybody. You guys can tweet me at Crocky209. I like that we finally got that changed. Yeah. But tweet me, what game should I watch where you're like, this is what you're looking for, Croc? Like, because for me, I'm open to it. I just didn't see it in the games that I watched so far. But if there are some games where you're like, well, you need to watch this game, people do that. Watch this game, watch this game. Show me the games that I need to watch so I can see what I want to see from cornerbacks.
Niners are on the clock at pick 63. You're taking Andrew Phillips, Kentucky corner. Even if he's a nickel, you're taking him over TJ Tampa, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like Drew Phillips as a nickel guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a guy kind of like Diamond Lenore, kind of remind me of just, I could play outside. He played outside. They showed that. And hey, I can slide inside, and I got some twitchiness to me. You talked about kind of some explosiveness that he had. It just looked like it translated to what the 49ers are doing right now a little bit more.
Sanders still, same story. Obviously, we've talked about how we like Kool-Aid. I think I would like Max Melton more, I think, at corner.
Yeah.
Maybe DJ James and Ennis Rakestraw is where we're starting to kind of talk about TJ.
But but DJ James, it just felt like more of my kind of guy.
He's more athletic, but he's also 25 pounds lighter.
He's like Nas.
Yeah, so he better be more athletic. DeVonta Smith, Croc, and we'll talk more about this tomorrow as it pertains to the 49ers, and I've got some ideas about how the 49ers, like wide receiver is still a dark horse, even if the 49ers don't trade Brandon Aiyuk before the draft. Wide receiver is a dark horse, and starting to hear some beat reporters talk about wide receivers for the 49ers. I want to get more into that on the Winky Wednesday, but do you think, just real quick, short answer, do you think the new contract for 3 years, $75 million for DeVonta Smith, do you feel like that's like the Eagles might have negotiated Brandon Ayuk's new contract? Do you think they're comparable players, talents, and should get a similar contract?
I think the Eagles value DeVonta Smith more in the passing game, or just in the structure of their offense. He's kind of, you got AJ Brown, and then you have DeVonta Smith, and then it's kind of everybody else. We'll see how they incorporate. Obviously they have Dallas Goedert, but I think Smith is ahead of Goddard in the pecking order, and then we'll see how they incorporate Saquon Barkley. I think in the 49ers offense, with the usage and the touches, even though he led the 49ers in receptions and yards, it still goes CMC, Deebo Samuel, Kittle based on being a 1,000-yard receiver and how they value him in the run game, blocking, and then Brandon Aiyuk. So from that standpoint, I would say Aiyuk wants 27. I need to come in at about $2 million more than DeVonta Smith. I would say the 49ers likely want him to come in about $2 million less than DeVonta Smith.
Interesting. Okay. I like it. I would say, look, give Aiyuk $1 more. Good job. Because it's that 3-year deal for DeVonta Smith starts after his 5th-year option, by the way. So that means Ayuk's on the 5th-year option this year. The 3-year extension starts after that. Ayuk's young. He's still going to be sub 30 years old. Go hit the market again as a free agent. And maybe at that point, you've been featured as a wide receiver 1, get even more money later. That's why I like the shorter deals for these guys when they're 25 years old. I think it makes sense for team and player in that regard to hit another big contract. And Deebo did the same thing with a 3-year extension. So I love it. Sign him up. Done.
I don't think it's that easy. I think Aiyuk is like, I'm not taking, like 49ers, you said short answer, but 49ers are going to want to, I think they want to come in a little bit less. Or they might say, you know what, we'll give you right around that guaranteed money. I think it was like $51 million.
51.
Hey, $51 million. And even then I'm like, well, you gave Deebo 58.
Yeah. Well, Deebo's contract went because he played under the final year of his rookie contract still too before his 3-year extension kicked in. Yeah, it's closer. I think. I think it's the right. I think they're in the same tier of player, and I think they should be in the same tier of money. And seeing that DeVonta Smith signed a shorter term deal, so did Deebo. Like, I think it might be better for the player especially if Aiyuk thinks he's going to be wide receiver 1 money when he's 28 years old. Like, you'd rather be there than get one more deal on this, and then you're starting to get towards 30, and maybe it's harder to get a longer term deal. I don't know. I think I like it. 3 years, 75, 25 mil per. Good job.
Can you give me 3 years, 75 right now, and wash out this 5th-year option year?
No, I don't think so.
Well, see, I can't sign it.
All right. You heard it here from Eric Crocker. Brandon Aiyuk's getting traded in 10 days before the NFL draft. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. We're gearing up for the Locked On NFL Mock Draft Special. It's going live Wednesday, 4 p.m. Pacific time. Croc and I are going to do a little primer 350, 10 minutes before to get you ready for that and send you off live to the NFL mock draft special, which was a lot of fun that I, again, co-hosted this year. Croc is our GM making the pick for the 49ers. Trade action, a lot of trade talks behind the scenes. We had a lot of trade action as well, so you want to tune in and find out where and who the 49ers select in the mock draft. Croc and I back tomorrow right here, Locked On 49ers.